This is the presentation for topic 8 from Econ 3. The title of this presentation is wage determination. So in other words, how do markets decide how much different people get paid for different jobs? What we were looking at in topic 7 is what affects the supply and demand of labour. Like in any other market, we work out the value of something based on the equilibrium point. So in this diagram, we've got the demand for labour, which we assume is based on the MRP, and we've got the supply of labour. So demand is the number of people that are wanted at different wage rates at a different time period. Supply is the number of people that are willing and able to work at the wage rates at a particular time period. So in this market, people will be paid W1 and Q1 people will be employed. Let's think about what might affect this wage rate now. Let's look at how demand increasing will affect the wage rate. Okay, now what we can see in this diagram is that as demand increases, wage rates grow and the number of people employed increases. What can affect this? Well, it's the factors that we mentioned in the last presentation. If people's MRP goes up, so maybe because workers become more efficient, they can generate higher profits for their businesses, more people will be employed. Maybe it's simply because the demand for the product's increased. Price of the selling product might have increased, which means the business will need more people to produce the extra output. Maybe the cost of employing somebody might have fallen. So maybe there are less health and safety costs or less pension contributions that the business needs to make. It could also be down to the price of the substitute factors of production, such as the capital or the technology, becoming more expensive. Obviously, if demand fell, you'd reverse all those different things I just said then. Let's think about how a growth in the supply of labour might affect the wage rate. So let's imagine supply increases like this. Originally, people are paid W1 and Q1 people are employed. As supply grows, we can see we've got excess supply. So what has to happen is the wage rate falls to W2 to encourage businesses to take on board more people. Okay, at W1, these people were unprofitable. We're paying them more than they were generating, but now at W2 we'll employ these extra people. What will make supply increase? Well, again, it's the facts that we mentioned in the last presentation. If the skills required to do a job were to fall, more people will enter that particular labour market. If the training period to train to do that job was to fall, again, more people would enter that profession. It could also be down to the cost of training. That might fall, so more people enter that particular type of job. So that's what can lead to the supply increase, and we could also, it's down to more immigration into the country. Something as simple as that. Right, now what I want to show now on our original diagram are two different areas. Okay, now this one here is what we call transfer earnings. This one here is what we call economic rent. Okay, now let's explain transfer earnings first of all. Let's look at this point I've indicated on the supply curve. Supply Q star labour, this individual would expect to be paid W2. If they were paid less than W2, so anywhere in this box here, let me colour it in green to make it stand out. If they pay people anything below their supply curve, they will transfer to another job, or they might leave that particular labour market anyway. So what the supply curve is the minimum we must pay people to do that particular profession. If we pay them less, they will transfer their labour to another market. Economic rent though. To provide Q star labour, we said people must be paid W2. If they're paid W1, for example, then they're earning more than they were willing and able to work for. So it's any income over transfer earnings, this is in effect. So this box measures economic rent. It measures how much people are getting over what they'd be willing to work for. What I want to talk about now is how a trade union might impact on labour markets. So we're thinking about the impact of a trade union now. If we take our competitive labour market, we know that Q1 people will be employed at W1. A trade union is designed to raise the wages of workers, improve the terms and conditions for labourers. So what in effect the trade union will do is raise up the cost of employing people, the wage rates, the terms and conditions, the protection people get. That in effect will raise the wage to the trade union markup. Now, what this shows is that at W2, demand for labour will fall to Q2. That's because suddenly now Q2 to Q1 people are unprofitable. They're making a loss on those. At this wage rate though, Q3 people are willing and able to work. So we've got an excess supply of labour. In other words, we've got unemployment. So it's a really common question in an exam paper. Will a trade union lead to unemployment? That diagram suggests yes. Okay, now what a trade union would have to do if they were any good and worth their money, they would look to raise the MRP of labour, make people more productive that are in their union. If they do that, they can keep increasing demand to the point where that higher wage of W2 is justified in terms of MRP. If that happens, they can actually raise employment to Q3 and justify W2 wages. So the impact of a trade union, yes, they might create unemployment. To stop it, they need to raise the MRP of labour. That's what we call a competitive labour market. What I want to look at now is the impact of a trade union when we have a monopsony. A monopsony or a monopsonist is a sole buyer of labour. So this means if you wanted a particular profession, you've only got one choice of person to work for. In effect, this gives the monopsony wage setting power. In a competitive labour market, the firms set the wages from the market. Here, though, monopsony can change their wage rates. Let's draw this diagram. Okay, now again, the demand for labour will be based on the marginal revenue product. The average cost of labour is in effect the supply curve. It's the wage rates that we're willing and able to work for. So if you think about it logically, if we employ more people, we need to pay more to get more people to enter the profession. We keep doing that, we're going to pay everyone else that already works for us more money as well. So more supply of labour that we take on board, the higher the wage rates we've got to pay people. Okay, now what we will add to this now is the marginal cost of labour. This is higher than the average because in effect every single additional member of staff we employ will be getting paid more and more. And to attract more and more people, we've got to pay everyone else that already works for us more money as well. So the marginal cost of labour is sucking up the average wage rate. Okay, now this business will maximise their profit on their workers at this point here. Let's just label that W1. At this point here, the marginal cost of labour, and I'll write this here, equals the marginal revenue product generated by labour. Let's take an example. Here, the revenue this person generates is up here. The cost of this person is down here. We're making a big profit. The difference between the two is the profit making on that worker. At this point, we can see they're both the same. We go beyond this point, the increasing costs of labour are not matched by growth in the MRP, so we'll not employ these people. However, if we had a competitive market, we'd employ to where supply meets demand. So we'd have W2, Q2. So we can see that a monopsony will not demand enough labour, and they will offer low wages. Now, what wage will they offer? So we know they're going to employ Q1, but they will base this on paying people W3. That's because they're a wage maker. They will pay people the minimum wage that they're willing and able to work for. So there's very little economic rent if people to gain from this. So we can see that a monopsony is not very good for employees, which is where a trade union could be a good thing. Now, what a trade union could do is to actually force up wage rates to at least the equilibrium point. So a trade union will aim for this. So a trade union will try and force wages up to what people are worth. Try and get the business to employ more people. I can see here that a trade union is definitely a good thing for a people when we have the monopsony. The monopsony has all the power in this particular market without trade union. They can employ people based on what they're willing and able to work for and not a penny more. A trade union can therefore unite all the workers together, give them more power against the employer and raise their wage rates.